an extra one.
I'm gonna do one more.
What is the value of 63 quintillion times 0?
0.
Spot on. What if we hadn't invented the symbol 0?
I didn't know that 0 was that important. I just thought it meant nothing. That was really fun.
Great job. I can't wait for our next session. See you then.
Okay, so that's called a synthesis tutor, and it starts with the fundamentals of mathematics. And you know, the idea here is that one of the best ways to learn is a one-on-one tutor. Of course, giving every child in the world a one-on-one tutor, a human one-on-one tutor, would be very cost prohibitive. And so the idea here is like use technology to emulate the types of things that tutors do to give you probing questions, to understand when you don't understand something, try to give you an explanation, to use stories to bring out concepts, and then to use the technology of widgets on the side that the tutor knows what you're doing in the widget and can kind of nudge you in the right direction. So kind of putting all this together, we at Astra, and now in my work at Synthesis and Astronova, the goal is people that can really learn anything, that can disagree constructively, people that know how to make any team better, and ultimately people who can contribute to the good. And so as it relates to kids now, like who are in school, and kind of like what advice would I give? I think there are a few things. The first thing is, I think that the more we can have our kids working on teams, the better. So this could be sports teams, this could be robotics teams, this can be really any type of group work with other people, especially when you need to make decisions in those groups or in those teams. That's really valuable. And I think we probably underestimate how valuable that is. Next is one of the big pieces of advice I always give to our students is like work on projects that you love. And if you don't, love it, if it's something that you're doing on your own time, you're not loving it, then don't love it. If you're trying to learn how to program and you're just not really finding a way through, like find something that you really love, and then through that angle, you can find something that may become your career. Next is find the cutting edge. So what I mean by that is if you were interested in, let's say, rocketry, find what the most advanced companies in the world are doing as it relates to rockets. It's easy in rocketry because the answer is SpaceX, because they've landed rockets. Something like 80% of all orbital payloads are delivered by a single company. And so whether it's medicine or space technology, or education or anything else, find the people who are doing the work at the cutting edge, read about what they're doing, try to understand it, and then try to anticipate like what you think might come next. And the final piece here is so often the parents that I work with worry about the future and worry about, well, what about this school or that school? Will this school help my child or the rest? And in some ways, it's not, an education is not simply school, right? Those are not the same exact thing, though they overlap. And so what I really encourage for all the families that I work with personally, and to anyone here who's listening, is the things that you love to do, the things that you are learning in your life, those are all part of your education. And some of those things happen at school, but many of them do not. So it's not just school alone that's responsible for learning, because a lot of ways school is not always geared towards helping you be prepared for the future. And I think all of my work is hopefully trying to move us in a direction where schoolwork is future work. It's work that prepares kids to make decisions and be people of real impact in the future. So I guess what I mean by this is think of school as just one piece of the puzzle, but there are many more pieces in your own education or in your child's education. And the more we kind of see it holistically, I think the better off we are. So I'll end it there. Hopefully the audio and video and all came through. And of course, happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
That was a fantastic presentation. I have learned so much, and I'm sure all those who are listening in have learned a lot as well. And I can say you've pretty much answered a good number of questions that I had regarding how technology and education merge. And the best part is the slide that you shared just before this about education not necessarily being equal to your school, and how you described that was just fantastic. So thank you so much for that presentation. Probably one question that I may have, one question that I may have, Joshua, is when it comes to accessibility of this content, you said we can find it, how we can access it. We have content on YouTube. You've said Astra Nova YouTube, right?
Yeah, Astra Nova School has a YouTube channel, and that's where all the conundrums, the AI conundrums, all those can be found. Synthesis will be releasing more and more tutor content to the world for free. The goal is to get, to give every child in the world an opportunity to do synthesis, whether that be teams like making the decisions and or tutor. If you go to synthesis.com, you can try out the tutor. There are some lessons that are available for free to check it out. And we're always looking to really get it into the hands of more school leaders or math teachers or whatever. So yeah, do not hesitate to reach out if you think that your students would use it. Because yeah, it's not, we have it. We want to give it to the world. And sometimes it's funny. You would think, I don't know. There's always like costs that can be prohibitive to folks, but I think we'd love to be able to give it away, for free, or at least nearly free for as many people as possible. But distributing it is actually it's not. As I say, actually, of course, it's a huge challenge, right? Even if you had what we consider to be maybe the world's best math tutor, digital math tutor, getting it into schools or getting it in front of kids is not an easy thing necessarily. So obviously, if this appeals to anyone and you want to know more, I'm happy to do whatever I can do to get it to as many kids as possible.
I appreciate that. We'll definitely be in touch to discuss this further. And just like to thank you again for this wonderful, wonderful breakdown, because it was really easy to understand, seeing the history, seeing even the suggestions of how best to, educate children and what will make them ready for the jobs as they keep evolving. And I feel like that really covers it in the sense that they can move easily in between their passions without having to learn a new skill entirely. And even if they do, they'll just be adding on to their already gained knowledge. So that was absolutely fantastic. Yes. We're now going on a commercial break. I think Jasin has the presentation. Jasin, go ahead and share your screen.
I think. Great. So, Beryl, if you can facilitate from your end.
The audio isn't working. Beryl, if it's your screen that's sharing, we can see the video. We cannot hear the audio, although we can hear your background, but we can't hear the audio from the video itself.
Hello, Jasin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we have seen your screen, but there was no sound. We have seen your screen, but there was no sound.
Sorry, maybe we'll work on that next time. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, Jasin, I have a question for you. So we have challenges when it comes to access to education and technology and how to be involved in it, especially here in Kenya. How are you working as Afribots to solve that?
Hello, I guess I'm audible now.
Yes,
Hello?
you are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Isabel. Now, as Afribot, what we are doing, we work with different schools when it comes to STEM education. We work with schools from underserved regions as well. And just like my good friend Josh has shared on how they're leveraging on AI to provide content through softwares, we also we have partners who have different solutions on education simulation softwares like these robots you can see here. These are physical robots, but then we have a partner with a simulation environment for such robots. So for schools who don't have maybe access to financing to buy the physical kits, we do make sure that they get the same kits at a very good rate and that can do exactly the same thing through the virtual kits. Now, besides that, we also have custom boards that we do make as Afribot. Like I showed you earlier, we have, I hope my audio is visible.
You are audible, but there's no video in case that's what you meant by visible.
Yes, so we do, we have open sourced most of our research, that is the robotic kits, to most schools and education hubs. So we have partnered with 17 African countries, and most of them, they're already fabricating our robotic kits in-house in their own countries, in their own labs. And we see this as a very good scaling strategy, more so for underserved regions. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you as well, Jasin. Joshua, I have a question. How is accessibility to education and technology within your country, and what are the challenges that are being faced there?
I mean, yeah, certainly, good internet connections are a huge piece of it, because even if something like Synthesis Tutor was available to every child in the country or in the world for free, right? If you don't have a computer that can run, that can reliably get on the internet and run the software, then that's doesn't really get us much of anywhere. I think in the same way when we're talking about understanding the cutting edge, I think one of the great challenges, at least in the United States, is it's not always that the best ideas are those that are going to be found in schools. And so it's as though every school and every school district in some ways kind of takes on the challenge of educating kids on their own. And I'm not sure that we leverage networks of people or find, to find the best ideas to make sure that ideally third grade gets better every year. So third grade, so let's say for like 8-year-olds, right? The year for 8-year-olds, ideally everywhere in the country and throughout the world, we're learning from what's working and what's not, and it will depend on the particular kids. But in many ways, the criticism of education is that third grade, for 8-year-olds has looked the same for the last 100 years. And I don't always buy that. I don't think it's exactly the same as it was 100 years ago, but I think there's a lot more that can be done to give kids a voice in school. So I think that's maybe one of the greatest access issues, is that schools that are really focused on getting like test results at times, like do so at the expense of a child's ability to like speak or be heard, in pursuit of giving them supposedly the skills that they need. And there's obviously a balance there, but I think if a child goes through a day and is unable to express an opinion or an idea, that's not the type of education that I think is serving anyone. So yeah, that's maybe how I think about it. Internet access is a huge piece of it, and then finding ways to surface the best ideas, and then leveraging networks to understand like what's really working. And it can't just be the numbers, it has to be like the kid's actual experience in a classroom.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Jasin, what are the trends that you see will be happening in the next 5 to 10 years within the Kenyan space and the African space? And why is technology important in that trend?
Okay, thank you, Isabel. Kenya, in the next 5 to 10 years, if Kenya stays as a developing country, I think it's the youth who will be to blame, because we have all the resources, and we can see whatever is working for the first world countries. So us as innovators, for now, we don't have to re-engineer the wheel. We just need to kind of see what works and how we can package it for the African continent to try leverage. Because if you compare even India maybe 20 years ago and where India is today, there is a lot of innovation that is going on. And even China, look at even US, there's a lot of innovation going on. Look at the Silicon Valley. So it's through innovations that we get to build our continent. And what we do as Afribot Robotics, we try to give the learners, we try to train them, give them the knowledge so they can use that as a tool to innovate. So we have a special program called apprenticeship program. As much as we are supporting hubs and schools to learn STEM, we do recognize the, in quotes, the gifted children, and then we give them a platform to explore their creativity by mentoring them and giving them the resources to create their solutions. So currently we have been doing it with the adults, 18++, but then we have our first cohort for kids who are creating solutions that are not existing anywhere in Africa. So for example, we have a kid who is creating a smart walking stick, is building the hardware. From the hardware, he's also doing the software on his own, and it's a lot of technologies that is combining, putting this together to have it work. So hopefully during the World Robot Contest, we'll get to see this. Now, talking about the World Robot Contest, you see, for the longest time, Africa has been behind. And even if you look the global competitions that have been happening to inspire learners on STEM, it's been a few countries in Africa who've been participating. But now this time around, what we did with the WRC, we brought in 17 African countries to participate. Because through teamwork, okay, students get to learn a lot through teamwork, and they get to inspire also other students by what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasin. That sounds fantastic. Joshua, I have a question for you based on your experience as a teacher. What do you feel that teachers need for their training and professional development to keep up with the trends, especially in education and technology?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, I think a reframing of the goals is maybe the place that I would start. So if you know, it's extremely difficult, of course, to be a teacher for so many different reasons. And I think that anyone who's in a position like I'm in, who gets to work at a small school or gets to work in a technology company, it's really easy to say like, well, of course, like everyone should just do this thing because it's obviously better. And that's not true. And that's not really the case. And so I guess for me, like in terms of the training, like what is it that what are we trying to do here? Because if you kind of line up, if you were to, so, you know, we call it, you know, the curriculum, so to speak, right? If you line up the curriculum and say, all right, well, this is what we think kids should learn. And all of that was made at some level removed from the teacher, like someone from above has said, basically, this is what the kids need to learn. And then there are textbooks that have that information, and there's other supplemental materials. And basically, the teacher's job is taking basically like the goals and objectives of someone else, and then using the tools that are provided to you in order to then get that knowledge into the kids, basically. I mean, that's one way of looking at it, and I think that that's probably a really bad way of looking at it. And so I guess for me, like it's like maybe it's like engagement is a place to start. So if you reframe it as like, okay, no, they will be able to do addition of fractions with unlike denominators, or like just going through like the standards. If you take it, kind of zoom out a bit, it's like, well, what are the things that we would hope that every child would be able to do in your classroom? And it's probably something like some of the things that I shared. Maybe they're a little bit different, but I think we would all say one of them would be engagement, that the child is engaged in learning, that like believes that they're capable of learning, that they feel some level of success, and not success as in they got a good mark or they, you know, but it has to be a little bit more than that. And right, so in some ways, I think of school as transferring responsibility to the kids, because they want they want power, basically. And in a good way, we should support that rather than fighting it, because the more we fight it, I think the more there becomes a disconnect between the aims of school and the aims of the child. And so as Jason's talking about, like giving kids like real experience building robots, working in teams, like this stuff, the reason why kids like it and why kids like video games as well, and is because they're in positions of power. They get to make real choice. They have agency, and they get to learn from mistakes, but they also get to experience the successes and feel like they're part of them. And so I think for me, from a professional development perspective, the first thing is a reframing of why school, what is it for? Do we believe that if you had kids learn all of these things in order, that therefore that person is ready for the future, or that person is ready to go out and start a company or to make lives better for other people? And the answer is like, well, yes, it's just a matter of like getting all of this information into their heads, and therefore they will be an effective citizen. Then that's news to me, because I don't think that that's how it works. So I guess it's rethinking what the goal of schooling is, thinking about what outcomes would be most exciting, the types of kids that would be like most eager to not just at age 8, you're not going to solve the world's problems, but you can start building momentum every year. And I think that that's a huge piece of it. And then finally, as it relates to technology, trying in our teacher education programs and the ways that we think about school to be very realistic about what the likely futures may be, right? The reason why, I mean, what I learned from Elon specifically is that he is maniacal about understanding what the forefront of technology looks like, either because his companies are helping to create it, or he's just trying to understand it. And in doing so, he has a better understanding of what reality is now, and therefore a better sense of what it may be in 5 years or 10 years or down the line. Where I think many people, and certainly schools, are operating from a very dated idea of reality. Like they believe that what's possible now, or at least the way the curriculum kind of imagines what is possible now, is a world that has passed us by. So rather than pass on that misunderstanding to kids, we have to find ways and partners and the rest of it to give them like to let them like live in the world that they're already living in. It can't be that that the kids in their lives are living this real world where they're at, like challenged in all these different ways all the time, and technology is it's ubiquitous. It's all around them all the time. And then school is like this other thing that doesn't seem to rhyme with life. So that's to me like, and if that is moving apart and school continues to be more and more different than the reality that we're living in, then it's going to not be, it's going to lose its value. It's going to lose its ability to make a difference. And so that's a lot, but I don't think there's much that's more important than that. So anyway, that's what I said. It's a great question. I don't have an easy answer there, but I do think asking the big questions can kind of help move us in the right direction.
Yeah, you've actually touched on a number of topics, and also I believe in the idea of reframing the goals of school. So why school, and what is it for, and what are we aiming for, especially in children's development, and helping teachers be good guides in the children's lives. So you really, you may think you have not answered it maybe satisfactorily, but I feel like you've touched on very important issues, and thank you for that. We have a few questions from the participants. Beryl, might you be having them?
Yes, we have two questions from David Asumadu, and we also have from Stella Kabura.
Okay.
But okay, I think the one from David Asumadu has been answered, or maybe I'll just ask it again.
Okay.
David Asumadu's question was, what has been your approach to curriculum designs? I think, if I'm not wrong, that is the last thing that has been addressed. Unless if David Asumadu feels like there's something that has not been addressed in the question he asked. So that one, then also have from Stella Kabura, if I'm not wrong. And I'll pose this question to both panelists. Do you also offer technology and education for institutes of higher education like colleges and universities in terms of learning content for students? Do you offer technology and education for institutes of higher education like colleges and universities in terms of learning content for students? Maybe Jasin, you give us your answer, then Joshua, you also give us your answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do. Through Afribot Education, we have robotics and AI programs for tertiary institutions. So for tertiary, those who are interested in robotics, we dive deep into robot operating systems and so on. So we could get in touch if you want us to introduce robotics and AI to your institution. We could, that is something that we do offer. Yes, so Josh?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first question like in terms of curricular design?
First question was what has been your approach to curriculum designs? What has been your approach?
Yeah. Just to maybe to reemphasize, curriculum where students have to make decisions. That's a huge piece, and ideally decisions in teams, and ideally decisions in teams where there can be discourse and conversation around what we ought to do and what might happen if we do it. And ideally, if you design something really good, and this is why games are so good for this, you can have teams think about what they ought to do, make that decision, and then understand the consequences with a pretty tight feedback loop. And robots are great for this too, right? Because you think, all right, let's do this, let's design it this way, and then you try it out, and then it falls over. Then you've gotten feedback from reality. So I think in a lot of ways, like curricular design philosophy is give kids decisions, allow there to be feedback from reality as quickly as possible, and then emphasize the idea that they should make course corrections. I'll just share a quick story. After the end of my first year of at Astra, I got a call late one night from Elon's assistant, and she said, Elon wants to meet with you tomorrow morning to discuss year one of at Astra. Be prepared to discuss the course corrections. And I panicked because I thought oh my gosh, I'd made it through this first year. Now it's time to celebrate and just kind of relax for a bit of time before school resumes. And the idea that I should be prepared for course corrections, I felt like I did something wrong, right? And I think there's a great learning moment for me there, because when you expect course corrections, knowing that we do make mistakes and there's endless room for improvement, it changes your mindset. And so for me, it was like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, of course there's things I would change. And it's like, oh, that's all that he's looking, that was all that he was looking for. It's like, okay, cool. Year one is in the books. What are the course corrections? How do we make it better? And I think the same is true whether it's like, building a robot or starting a school or working, with students in a classroom or, starting a company or working at, like, what are the course corrections? And then, how do I kind of get better every day? And then in terms of like adult education, as a company at Synthesis, we play the Synthesis games as a team every Friday. It's pretty fun to play, we designed it for kids, and yet adults, I think, get great value out of it. We have not extended it into higher education or to companies or the rest, but I guess we'll see. Our primary focus is giving kids between the ages of 8 and 14 real experiences working in teams. And if we can share it with actual teams of adults and helping them get better at communicating with one another and coming together to solve problems in a safe, kind of fun space, then maybe we'll do that. But that's definitely not the focus at the moment. I appreciate the questions.
Okay, thank you so much for your feedback. Isabel, back to you. Those are the only questions we have. Faith Maina has raised her hand. Let me give her an opportunity to ask her question.
That's all right.
Faith Maina, are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can Have your question typed on the question box so that we get your answer. Okay, there are other questions coming in. Let me. Okay, Eric Kirwa has a question. How do you incorporate an autistic child into this system? Any of you can respond to that. How do you incorporate an autistic child into this system? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Jasin?
I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so for our program, we do work with those who are trained to handle people with disability and also autistic children. We train them on how to deliver our content, and then they assist us to deliver on the other end. But on synthesis, I guess they are. So maybe Josh can tell us more.
Yeah, we have a number of students that are on the autism spectrum at Synthesis. In fact, in some ways, some of the most transformational stories have come from students that are on the autism spectrum at Synthesis, because there's a way to interact with other kids in a way that's not just purely social, right? There's the game, right? The interactive game that you're all playing allows a kind of an entry point to connect in a way that maybe is harder to find in other school settings. So what's nice also, of course, is that there are kids that have different levels of comfort sharing their ideas in a group setting. I mean, one of the, I don't know, the phrase we use, the idiom is the elephant in the room, right? The thing that's there that no one's talking about is that often kids in Synthesis are playing with total strangers, other kids that they've never met before, and they're, it's a kind of a challenging environment to be with people you've never met. And so part of it is, if we believe that the best possible future requires a generation of kids who grow to be adults who are more capable than we are, then we need to be giving them the types of experiences that we did not have as kids. So in my mind, one of them at a small level is like, yeah, the ability to work with all types of different people, and to get comfort working with people that you don't know, and also to get comfortable expecting course corrections and reflecting on mistakes that you've made, rather than hoping that you've done everything right. It's sort of expecting that you've done at least one thing that's not perfect, and of course you can improve it, and that's natural. Because when we protect ourselves from failure, we find that I don't know, if your ego is only revolves around the idea that you must be successful, and if there's anyone that thinks otherwise, then that, I guess, should be avoided at all costs. So like, it's hard to get anywhere, right? So anyway, but as it relates to children on the spectrum, it's been really cool. It's been really great to see that even if maybe for those on the spectrum that are less verbal, the idea that you can participate together with other people doing something, you can just be making decisions in the game that your other teammates can see and can appreciate, that there's just different levels of interaction that are possible. So anyway, that's been it. And for tutor, it's still too new. I haven't seen any of the results of that, but we feel really good about serving this particular group of students. So I really appreciate the question.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I think we have the last question for you from Faith Maina. Does Astronova have more learning resources apart from the 3 shared programs?
Do we have more shared resources? Those are, so you can sign up for a trial for Synthesis teams, but so that you could, for 14 days, try it out and see what it's like. Tutor, you can do free lessons, and then those conundrums videos, there's 43 of them available right now. Very soon there'll be a little bit more than 50. Those are the three main ones. Other than that, I think that's all that I can think of at the moment that's available. There is a school called Astronova that I run, that we create the conundrums together, and it's a school for kids around the world, and we offer 100%, we meet 100% of demonstrated financial need, which means that any student, regardless of where they live in the world, as long as they have an internet connection, can join Astronova school if they're accepted, and depending on their family income, it's either zero cost, or for their kids that come that can afford quite a bit, it's just a sliding scale based on what people are able to afford. So that would maybe be one additional thing to look at. It's for students between the ages of like 10 and 14. But after this, I will start my school day at Astronova School, as well as doing the things at the Company of Synthesis. So I split my time between the two projects. So that would be one more. Take a look at Astronova School, and that is astronova.org. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your feedback. Isabel, back to you.
Thank you, Beryl, for taking us through that session. And thank you to all the participants who shared their questions. They were very insightful. All right, we are wrapping up, and this is where I'll ask each of the panelists to give us their closing remarks. And I'll start with you, Joshua, then Jasin. When you're giving your remarks, you could probably thank all those who have contributed towards this wonderful webinar. So Joshua, please go ahead. Any final remarks you may have?
Yeah, no, I want to thank you all for inviting me here to speak. I hope this had some value for you, even if it's a small one. I want to thank all of you for reaching out to invite me, and for trying to do right by our kids and give them great opportunities to make decisions and work in teams and be part of the future. And so anyway, I want to thank all of you for that. And don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything I can do to help. And I'd love any feedback that you see. If you check out Tutor and really like it, or really don't like it, or any of the other things that I've spoken about today, I'm always open to feedback for the purpose of improving. So I definitely want to thank Jasin, and I want to thank the whole team here to put this all together. So Amos, Beryl, Isabel, thank you for everything, and I'm happy to do it again anytime. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing so much insight into education and the process of creating an entire school and trying to make it as good as possible for teachers and for students. So thank you for your contribution to doing good as you recommend we do it ourselves. Jasin, go ahead. Our organizer and our soon-to-be host for the World Robotics Contest Africa edition.
Thank you so much, everyone. Josh and the team behind. It was communication back-to-back to have you. I've been part of the network, which is a global platform for educators. And we are also going to work with Josh to ensure that we have more African kids on synthesis, and if possible, also have some joining Astronova School. I can see our partner from Ghana, Assistem Robotics. Thank you so much for joining in. I can see Georgia Preparatory School, Mr. Eric Kirwa. Thank you so much for joining in. Kenya Space Agency, Faith Minor. I think Faith was trying to ask if you have programs that are aligned to space education. Thank you so much for joining in. The whole team at Smart Guys Investments for putting the technical team behind this webinar series. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your work. And UBA, our main sponsors for WRC2023. We really appreciate. So we are hosting the African Championship of the World Robot Contest, and we're having 17 African countries participating. in this edition. So this is the first time Africa is hosting such a big event, and we'll be having it in Mombasa. So welcome everyone, and we'll share more good news from Astra Nova and Joshua. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Wishing you all a fantastic evening, and I think a wonderful day to you, Joshua, and to those who are starting the day. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
All right.